What's going on, people? It's your man, the White B, back once again. So, Dillian Whyte, I didn't even know he was fighting, I'm not going to lie, but he had a squabble. I'm not sure if you call it that, but he had a fight against Christian Hammer. Now, Hamer, I remember Hamer was kind of half buzzing at one point. Not buzzing, but he was a bit on. I think that Fury fought him for the final eliminator, or something like that, years ago before Vlad, I believe. Either way, back 10 years ago, he was half in the mix. He's obviously fell off since then. He's become like a high-level journeyman. He's the guy that all the big names bring in. Joe Joyce has had him. Dillian Whyte's now had him. Dubois, I don't know. There's a whole bag of man who've had him. But the point is, the guy is a top-level journeyman. That's the bottom line. He's brought there to lose. Nonetheless, though, I mean, listen, Dillian Whyte got it done in 3 rounds. It wasn't a devastating KO. I mean, there was points that Dillian Whyte was on the ropes. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, at least with Joe Joyce's performance, I don't remember too much of him on the ropes, if I'm honest, against Cash Ali. For me, Cash Ali and Hamer, a red apple and a green apple kind of thing. Same kind of cats. Dillian was in there. I'm not even sure he'd call it politicking. He was having half a fight with the guy. That's the truth. Dillian jabbing here. Did it jab? I'm not sure. All right, and either way, looking at the floor, good technique there from Dillian. He just looked, I don't know, listen. The last thing you'd call it was devastating. There was nothing devastating about this performance, and to be quite frank, the reason I brought that parallel with Joe Joyce in is because both individuals, I feel the same. They both had a similar performance. Yes, Dillian got it done in 3 rounds, but did he though? Hammer quit. He ain't there to fight. And I wonder if someone was there to fight, what would Dillian have done? Dillian's never been the quickest, but he looks slow, ponderous. Listen, based on AJ's performance, for me, if I was AJ right now, outside of Hrgovic, bear in mind AJ wants to stay, apparently waiting until May to see what happens with Fury and Usyk, and then he's going to make his decision. On that basis, I wouldn't rush Hrgovic now, but I don't see why AJ shouldn't take on someone like Joe Joyce, Dillian Whyte. Why not? Based on what we're watching here, yeah? If that Ngannou fight's real and the Wallin fight's real and he's back on, what are we going to sit around for? Some goof troop in the comments. Why be you hating? I don't want to see AJ burnt out. People, we're talking about men competing once every 3 months. Other sports you compete 3 times a week. Yeah, but why be other sports you don't get damaged? Listen, people, how much damage did AJ take in the Wallin fight? None. How much damage did he take in the Ngannou fight? None. So stop talking about... Listen, if AJ had a war in December, I'd say, well, whatever, cool off, rest up. But if you're on form, you found a bit of a rhythm and a wave, ride the wave. Yeah? Oh, IB, you don't know about boxing, but you do. The idiots telling him to sit down. Oh, AJ's had his best form in his career. Oh, listen, if the Ngannou fight's real and the Wallin fight's real, I mean, in both fights, he showed supreme confidence. I did a video yesterday. The confidence is through the roof. We've never seen AJ like this before. We've seen an AJ who's aggressive and hungry. We haven't seen one who's calculating and menacing. Calculating, menacing, and just almost stoic. Bad intentions. He had bad intentions in 2015 against Dillian, but it was ropey in as much as he was confident in his hands. He hadn't lost yet. AJ's now almost like a mature. Do you know what I'm saying? He's matured in that confidence, and now it's a calm devastation. With that, in my opinion, career peaking form. Now, he hasn't been tested yet. Wallin's no good. Well, AJ showed Wallin to be no good. AJ showed Ngannou to be no good. Listen, people, I was wrong about Ngannou. I thought Ngannou was going to be in the fight based on the Fury fight. So, all the people tell, oh, AJ needs to take a rest. Why would he take a rest now for? Yeah? If you man are telling me, which it could be, I'm 75-80% sure that AJ is just on a wave right now. And he's got it nice with Ben Davidson. If he's on that form, drop it for what? So far, at least, I mean, whatever you think about Wallen, Ngannou, in my mind, was an upgrade. Because whatever you say about Ngannou, his chin was never a question. Not once. We've seen him hit with fury, as a fact. We've seen him hit in the UFC with 4-ounce gloves. We've seen him kicked. His chin was never a question. So if AJ's able to pop someone's cherry and knock their consciousness clean out their head, he should be carrying on with that one. Do you understand? Don't sit around for nothing, especially not when we talk about Dillian Whyte and Joe Joyce. Why not? Yeah? In my opinion, Joe Joyce is multiples times slower than Ngannou, and he's just as old. Dillian Whyte's not far off either, and it was a slovenly performance. Even Hammer was making Dillian Whyte look silly. Dillian Whyte threw a right hand and left hook, and Hammer ducked both of them. It wasn't a good look. I mean, Dillian never comes in great shape. Shape is subjective. You don't necessarily have to look like a bodybuilder to be a good boxer, but it just looks... Dillian Whyte fought how he looks. Bulbous. Do you understand? It's bulbous. Yeah? Two bulbous dudes. That's how it looked to me. I wouldn't have sat here and told you this was one world champion versus a journeyman. It looked like a British level dude, a European level dude in there with a journeyman. Obviously, Dillian was a higher level, but he wasn't. For example, Shakur Stevenson. He fought this weekend against someone. Was it Maxie Hughes? I don't know who it was. Some dude. The point is, and Shakur's not even a puncher. Do you understand? Shakur's a 130 pounder. He's not a puncher. He's like literally not a puncher. He's a 130 pounder who's not a puncher. And he beat dude up for 4 rounds. Dillian's a heavyweight who to some extent can be considered a puncher. Where did you man, maybe I missed it, did you man see any like devastating punching here? I didn't. And against this calibre of opponent, I'd have expected it. Same with Joyce. People have said to me, well, YB, Cash Ali was covering up and Hammer was covering up, whatever. Like I said, when AJ and Dubois are in there with these calibre of dudes, Hammer, Cash Ali, I don't rate Dubois, I've told you. Yeah? As far as Warriors Paradise goes, Dillian Whyte can make it to Warriors Paradise. He's been knocked spark out. And to be quite frank, in that AJ fight, he was fighting, right? Dillian Whyte makes it to Valhalla. He wasn't scared of meeting his destiny. Do you understand? In fact, he was running to his destiny. And on that night, it was to be knocked spark out by AJ. He ran towards it though. He didn't get clipped and thought, oh, I don't fancy this. He kept pushing. So, in that respect, Dillian Whyte and Joe Joyce, both of them, they've both experienced honourable passings. Yeah, they make it to Warriors Heaven. That's what I believe this game's about at the base level. At the very least, as a fighter, yeah. Do you have the balls to meet your destiny? Dubois does not. Yeah, and to be honest, I'd argue, I don't think really AJ's embraced it too much either. If I'm sitting here and being truthful with it. When AJ was getting punched up against Ruiz, did he go out swinging? Did AJ show the same tenacity Dillian Whyte? When AJ was on top of Dillian Whyte, yeah, did AJ show that same spirit against Ruiz? I don't think he did. Sorry. Did AJ show that same spirit against Usyk? I don't think he did. Yeah? Bottom line. And after the fight, he ended up complaining. I'm too big to be I'm too big to do... What the fuck? But anyway, I've digressed. The point is, people, regardless of Dubois and to some extent AJ's spiritual misgivings, where Dillian Whyte and Joe Joyce have that in bags. Dillian Whyte not scared to be knocked spark out. Yeah? Fury knocked him spark out. Povetkin knocked him spark out. AJ knocked him spark out. He'll go spark out, no problem. Joe Joyce not scared to get his eye bust and keep pushing on. Joe Joyce not scared to be knocked spark out by Zhang. Joe Joyce could have come in there and been politicking and dancing and just trying to... He got knocked spark out. I played to him. Warriors Heaven. Yeah? My point is, the spiritual misgivings that AJ and Dubois may have, they make up for to some extent because they deal with this caliber of opponent. You put AJ in there with a hammer. Well, I don't know actually. Certainly this new AJ with Ben Davidson would smoke Hammer differently. The old one though, who was in there with Franklin and Hellenius, I'm not so sure. But even so though, I'm probably being a bit too critical here. Let's just keep with it. Dubois and AJ, what do we think they'd do with Hammer? It wouldn't be. I don't believe Dubois would be in there politicking with someone like Hammer, and in there on the ropes and having half a go and making it look interesting. It genuinely, people. It looked like Dillian Whyte was there. And sometimes people read fights and they say things like, "Oh yeah, it was like a sparring match." This fight didn't look like a sparring match, a controlled sparring match from Dillian Whyte's perspective. It wasn't like he was in there and testing a few things. It looked like he was trying, but just don't have the pop to get it done, to make damage. If that makes sense. Now, he only had 3 rounds, but even in the 3 rounds we witnessed, slovenly comes to mind. Same with Joe Joyce. He had 10 rounds, slovenly. There was no pop. Now, again, I've gone a long way around the bushes here, but what do we think AJ or Dubois would do with Hammer? Yeah, let's say AJ and Dubois had 3 rounds with Hammer. I just think it'd be more definitive. Yeah, Hammer quit, but you shouldn't really be giving the opportunity. You had 3 rounds with him. If he's going to quit, it should have really Hammer quit because he didn't. What's the one I'm saying? Hammer didn't have the fight beat out of him. Hammer's 40-year-old, and he just kind of thought, what am I doing here? He wasn't beat up though. He wasn't actually stopped. If that makes sense. I believe AJ or Dubois would have actually stopped Hammer. It would have been clear. Yeah, please someone stop the fight. This was just like a whatever. Same as Joe Joyce. What do we think AJ or Dubois would do with Cash Ali? It wouldn't go 10 rounds, that's for sure. They're missing something. Is it the power? I mean, Joe Joyce has stopped people who've never been stopped before, like Joseph Parker. Has he fallen off? I don't know. Dillian Whyte has never been a massive power puncher. I mean, both Dillian and Joe Joyce, they're not as powerful as AJ or Dubois anyway. But still, Dillian's made it look good in the past. Even when he was the Povetkin rematch, he was piecing Povetkin up. I'd say this performance here against a much lesser opponent was a lot worse. This wasn't a Dillian Whyte who came back against Povetkin. This wasn't a Joe Joyce. Even when Joe Joyce was in there with Takam, for example, the work looked exhausting. Now, Cash Ali got tired. But was he tired? Was he tired because Joe was working? Not really. It wasn't. Joe didn't break him down. Cash Ali's face was clean. His body was clean. It's lacking that. I'm not sure what you call it. It was lacking that whip. There was no whip on Joe's punches. There was no whip on Dillian's punches. Is it the case that they're both... What's the word? They're both... Oh, it's a stay busy fight. And it's a stay busy fight, so I'm not really up for it. I don't know. It's hard to buy into that logic, though, because Dubois can have a stay busy fight, and we know what's going to happen. Yeah? You put Dubois in there with Cash Ali, he ain't going to last 5 rounds. Do you understand? See what I mean? It's like maybe it's just levels of power. Either way, my conclusion is Dillian Whyte and Joe Joyce, based on those last performances, should fight each other. They both look slow. Joe's always been slow, but Dillian didn't look much faster. I'm not impressed with Dillian, really. I'm not impressed. Dillian versus Joe Joyce. Try and get it in Saudi for the bag, but in the UK it'll be a big fight. I don't see why that fight doesn't do the O2. And it will put whoever wins that fight is then back in the mix. I don't believe neither of these guys right now. Neither of these guys as they stand. Dillian as he stands. Is he ready to get him back in the mix with the U6 to AJs? The U6 to AJs, the Furies. The Wilder? Yeah, I think the winner of Joe Joyce and Dillian, that'd line them up for a Wilder fight. What's Wilder? I don't know. But then again, listen, people. When Wilder gets in there with a bum, yeah, Is the fight fixed? We don't know. But when he gets in there with a bum, with all due respect, they do get knocked spark out. It's like Wilder versus Brazil. Knocked spark out. Wilder's got an affinity towards bums. He just knocked them out. So he's kind of got that clout. When you're in there going 10 rounds of Cash Ali. Now, I'm not sure about this Wilder, but I'd like to think, put Wilder in there with Hammer, yeah? You get knocked spark out. Put Wilder in there with Cash Ali, knocked spark out. So I can't even say at this point Dillian and Joe Joyce are on at Wilder's level. Wilder's been a champion before. He's just dropped right now. Yeah, there was a time Dillian and Wilder were in the mix together, and it could have happened, and it made sense. Both of them had similar levels of clout. Right now, though, I have to put Wilder above Dillian and Joe Joyce. Them two. That's my conclusion. Joyce and Whyte, right now, they're looking about the same level to me. Who would I back? Something about Dillian's style, it just turns me off. What is Dillian? I'm not even sure what you'd call Dillian's style. It's like a boxer, a heavyweight, bulbous boxer who don't got no snap. I'm not sure what you call it. Joe Joyce. Again, I really can't. I'd go with Joe for old time's sake. I'd go with Joe for what he's done, knocking Joseph Parker out. I mean, Joe Joyce's come up was, apart from the fact he ain't got no chat, his come up for me was quite electric. Can this man ever be stopped? Obviously, he ran into Zhang, and the rest is history. But on that basis, I've always felt closer to Joe than Dillian from a boxing point of view. Something about Dillian's style, it's never just turned me on. Like Dillian was in there going life and death with Franklin. Again, same. That's why I put Dillian now below Wilder, because it's that same. He's not able to differentiate himself. Yes, Dillian won every round against Hammer, yeah, or Hamer, wherever his name is. This one, he was missing that pizzazz that you'd expect from a world championship contender. He looked like he was in there just stuck in gear 2. He couldn't shift the gears. Someone like Shakur, who can't punch and who's 130 pounds, he makes it happen. And that's off no volume as well. What's worrying is Dillian Whyte's a heavyweight and was using volume. Same for Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce against Cash Ali was using volume and is a heavyweight. Couldn't inflict no damage. Hammer wasn't damaged. Hammer wasn't cowering. He quit, yeah, whatever. But it wasn't a pummeling. Listen, people. Cash Ali didn't have the gas to run away. Hamer didn't have the gas to run away. This wasn't a case of, well, for example, Dillian Whyte fought Robert Helenius once. Watch that fight and you could argue, and that's what Dillian Whyte said. Dillian Whyte said, well, I couldn't get my work off and I couldn't show what I've got because Helenius was running. Fine. Hamer weren't running. Yeah, Hamer's half Mr. Blobby looking ass weren't running nowhere. Cash Ali's no gas having ass weren't running nowhere. So if you're claiming to be world championship level against literally these two guys, Cash Ali and Hamer, they were essentially heavy bags, oversized and big ringside one. I think ringside make a big like 300-pound heavy bag. Floyd Mayweather has them. They're like double or triple the size of normal heavy bag. That's what these cats were like. Big, stiff, heavy bags that you're made. These are made. If you've got anything, yeah, like AJ, like Wilder, like Dubois. If you've got anything, you look like you're red hot. As Dubois did. When Dubois goes in there with these guys, you think this guy's unstoppable. Do you understand? Now, obviously, Dubois lost Joe Joyce, but so it's hard to draw triangles. Can you say, well, just because Dubois knocks him out quickly, at the end of the day, he lost to Joe Joyce? I don't know, man. From a casual's point of view, I want to see these kind of guys dispatched. Bottom line, baseline. Dispatch these kind of big, bulbous, heavy bag looking ass journeyman. Get rid of them. Or don't fight them at all. What you can't do is say you want... Essentially, Dillian Whyte looked like he was sparring. Now, if Dillian Whyte's in there doing this against a Joseph Parker or a Joe Joyce, it doesn't look as bad. If you're in there and you're boxing with dude, you're hitting him with some shots and you're taking some shots, because the levels are equal, it makes sense. But it don't make sense when you're in there touching dude and nothing's really happening. There's no real effect. It just looks like you're missing something. Same for Joe Joyce. If Joe Joyce had that performance against Parker, well, people, listen, they're equally matched boxers and it was what it was. He won on points. But you can't be winning on points against these level dudes. Yes, Dillian Whyte got the stoppage in round 3, but it wasn't about Dillian Whyte. This wasn't a devastating performance from Whyte that shut Hammer down. Hammer, for whatever reason, didn't want it. He could have absolutely continued. And to be quite frank, I really believe, all things equal, there's no reason, from what I saw in them 3 rounds, there's no reason the fight couldn't have gone 10 or 8 or however many rounds it was for. Same as Cash Ali. Cash Ali essentially went the distance for me. Anyway, I've rambled on. Bottom line, Dillian Whyte versus Joe Joyce is the fight for both of them men. There's nothing else for them. Tell a lie. What's Dubois done? Dubois has beat Miller. And he quit to Usyk before that. Really, being fair here, I've got Dillian, Joyce, and Dubois. Just because Dubois had one half decent win against a guy who hadn't fought for 3 years. And really, Miller never fought no one. So Dubois, that fight was going late as well. That fight was dragging on. So Dubois didn't come in there and knock him out in 3 rounds. Either way, fair play to Dubois. He did bounce back from quitting. But he hasn't done enough for me to put him above. For example, I've put Wilder above these guys right now, at this particular point in time. But Dubois, Whyte, Joyce, them 3 should get together now, really. The belts are tied up. Has Dubois still got his shot? Oh no, sorry, Dubois lost his shot. He lost to Usyk, so yeah, forget. Dubois just hanging around anyway. The belts are tied up, more or less indefinitely. Hrgovic has got next. Well, Usyk and Fury got 2 fights. Hrgovic got next. AJ's there. The winner is Zhang and Parker. So for belts now, you can forget about it. There's no belts coming up anytime soon. Hence, Joyce, Dubois, and Whyte. All 3 of them fights are O2 sellers. You'll do 20k at the O2 in London for sure. With mixing any 3 of them. Joyce versus Dubois is the rematch. Joyce versus Dillian Whyte, interesting. Dubois versus Dillian Whyte, interesting. I'd probably, at this point, based on what I've seen, I hate to say it, but I never thought I'd see the day, but based on what I'm seeing right now, yeah, I'd have to say I've got Dubois at the top of them. Because, yeah, he quits, but I'm not sure, based on what we saw, I'm not sure Joe Joyce has got, what do you call it? Joe Joyce's head is strong, his mind is strong. I'm not sure his body. He looks slower than ever. His chin's only going to be more questionable now. I'm not sure Joe's sharp enough in physically. He's 40 years old, people. Dillian Whyte's nearly 40. Dubois has age on his side. He's like, 25, 26? He's basically coming into his prime in the next year or 2. So, at this point, I got Dubois. I'd bet money on, it's a bad sign, but I'd bet money. I can't see Dillian Whyte in there, yeah, doing all this like he was with Hammer. Dubois is going to punch him in his mouth really hard. That's what I think will happen. Dillian's in there, he's putting these shots together, but are they doing much? Didn't look like it to me. And Dubois is strong. But if you last 6 rounds with him, he's probably going to run out of gas and quit. So it's difficult, but I would have Dubois at the top of them right now. I'd have Dubois to beat Joe and Dubois to beat Dillian Whyte. Hopefully, though, both Dillian and... Well, you know what? I'd have Dubois beating Dillian regardless, to be quite frank. But hopefully, from Joe's perspective, if not Dillian's too, that this was Dillian came out after the fight and said, I've been out, I'm ring rusty. Ring rusty's one thing, but we saw you in there with Franklin. Yeah? We saw you in there with Franklin. Was you rusty then too? And that was when Dillian had some momentum. That was when Dillian beat Franklin and then the AJ fight was about to come. Dillian had some momentum and he still looked flat. It's like he was missing. Dillian was a 10-1 favourite against Franklin. It ends up being a draw. That's what I'm talking about. I think I made the same comments in reaction to that fight. Dillian's missing that world champion. I mean, at the world champion level, you usually have one or more things, i.e., you've got, at heavyweight especially, you've got a nasty punch. Yeah? You've got a top percentile punch. You've got a punch that can change the fight at any time. I don't think Dillian has that. I just don't think he does. Not at this point. Even early in his career it was questionable, but certainly not at this point. I ain't seen it. If Dillian's got that kind of punch, where was it against Hamer? Where was it against Franklin? Joe Joyce, same kind of thing. What does Joe Joyce have now? Before he had a great chin, he had a top percentile chin. His work rate was unbelievable, his cardio was unbelievable, and he could just keep going and eventually break you down. But he did. Cash Ali is just essentially a heavy bag. I didn't see a whole bunch of breaking down there. Cash Ali got tired. He didn't get battered. His face was clean. But YB, Cash Ali was covering up. Like I said, at the top level of heavyweights, you can't just cover up. That isn't a strategy. It's not possible because the force is overwhelming. At the top level of heavyweight, covering up ain't a strategy. Top heavyweights will punch through that. That's why, obviously, who wouldn't want to go distance? If you could just put your hands up and survive, then every journeyman, or a lot of journeymans, wouldn't be knocked out in 3, 4, 5 rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds. They'd be knocked out later on. It's not. The power's too much. It goes through. Joe Joyce, his chin's questionable now. His effective work rate is questionable now. Before, Joyce would break you down with a jab, but he bust Joseph Parker's face. He'd break you down and then touch you with some other things, some slow power shots. I didn't know where the jab was. It certainly wasn't marinating nothing. Joe Joyce's jab didn't marinate nothing. So what would you say now is Joe Joyce's top percentile characteristic? In the last fight, can you base someone on their last fight? Well, he got knocked out by Zhang. And so in the last 2 fights, or the last 3 fights, to be quite frank, in the last 3 fights, what would you say is Joe Joyce's, listen, he does this better than anyone in the world, or as good as people in the world? Maybe his gas tank? But that gas tank, unfortunately, you can have all the gas in the world. If you can't turn that into breaking people down, what's it good for? And that Cash Ali fight looked like he's got a bunch of gas and it's not getting him nowhere. Dillian Whyte, what would you say is his top percentile skill? What skill do you see from Dillian Whyte in the Franklin fight, in the Hammer fight, that you'd say, yeah, this puts him in the mix at the top level? I don't see it. Dubois, it's clear. Dubois has knockout power. He folded Usyk for 5 minutes. A man who's never... Listen, I think the punch was legal. A man who's never been down was knocked out rolling on the floor. Yeah, a man who's never been down and never been stopped, and one of the best, if not the best, defensively sound fighter in the world, got caught. Was it a lucky shot? Listen, Dubois had a strategy of going to the body. So he planned that and he executed. No, who else had been able to do that? AJ couldn't, twice. AJ had 24 rounds. He touched Usyk to the body a few times, but it didn't knock him down and fold him over. So Dubois clearly has, at a proven level, he's put down and arguably knocked out the best heavyweight in the world right now, based on belts. So Dubois is in that category. He has that. That is really his big sell. His big sell isn't his heart, his cardio. It's not necessarily that quick. But if he hits you, and he hits you right, the best man in the world, Usyk, will be knocked out. That's Dubois' characteristic. What would you say Dillian Whyte has? In fact, Dillian Whyte was a 10-1 favourite. Dillian Whyte had world championship calibre odds against Franklin. And it turned out that by the final bell, it was 50-50 at the bookies. It was a draw, basically, the fight, based on the money line, which is what matters here. Judges or whatever. What people are prepared to bet is the truth. And the odds at the end of the fight, I think Dillian Whyte was like 55%. 55% of the betting public believed Dillian Whyte won, which is essentially a draw, a narrow win. And to drop from a 10-1 favourite to a 50-50, a 55-45 favourite is a huge fall off. And almost by definition, you can't have fights like that and still be considered world level. I think it's difficult. So Dillian Whyte for me has no, at this point at least, in the last few fights, has no observable top level characteristics. Joe Joyce, listen people, he had 10 rounds against Cash Ali. Yeah? If Joe Joyce looked bad in the Zhang fight, or both the Zhang fights, fine. Cash Ali though, it's such a step down. He should look devastating. It should be clear. These are the fighters, yeah, that you go in there with and it's clear, yeah, this guy's lost to Zhang, but he's still got something that can mingle at World Championship level. I didn't see that. Dillian Whyte the same. Franklin and Hammer. I ain't seen nothing that identifies him. Yeah, based on what we saw tonight against Hammer, he can mingle with Zhang, Parker. I don't know. Something about Parker don't turn me on, but Zhang, Fury, Usyk, AJ. What did you see? Nothing. Look at AJ's recent fights. Now AJ's in form. AJ looked not as bad as Dillian looked really bad, but AJ looked bad against Jermaine Franklin. But it was a different fight. It wasn't 50-50. AJ still won 10 out of 12 rounds. Does that make sense? Dillian's been going in there with guys as a 10-1 favourite and coming out with a draw. AJ, he maintains the odds. He goes in there 10-1 against Franklin, and the whole way through the fight is 10-1. Yeah? AJ knocks out Hellenius, knocks out Wallin. So AJ's in form right now. He's showing skills as well that are top level, in that Ngannou fight in particular, and the Wallin fight. He's on the way up. AJ, in my book, his FIFA scores are going up right now. Joe Joyce's have plummeted based on the last few performances. Joe Joyce had like a 95 out of 100 chin rating. That is gone down to the floor. Overall, you might have considered Joyce to be an 80 out of 100 or an 85 out of 100 boxer as a package. I think that's how you analyse Joe Joyce is as a package on his performances. He kind of just, it doesn't make no sense. He's slow, doesn't have massive power, but he kind of puts it all together, and at the end of the day, he was looking unstoppable, like a juggernaut, literally. So you have to judge Joe as a full package, and the full package right now, which may have once been a world championship in the mix kind of dude, at an 85 out of 100, it's looking like 65, 70 now, just falling off. And Dillian the same. I'm not seeing how he competes at the top level. But boxing triangles are BS, as we found out. You can do all this maths. Well, this happened, that happened. Listen, if Joe Joyce goes in there with Parker, he'd probably knock him out again. Yeah, if I bet money on Parker, he'd knock him out, for sure. Yeah, Joe Joyce can suck against Cash Ali. I'll put some coin on Joe Parker in the rematch, and Joe Joyce go in there and smoke him 4 rounds. So, it is what it is anyway. Whyte versus Joyce or Dubois, those three, Joyce, Dubois and Whyte, should be looking to mingle, in my opinion anyway. Let me know your thoughts. Smash the like button, subscribe, and let off the bell. 100%, no doubt about it.